So I think I would want people to know that there even is a culture within the culture. There's diversity within our culture, and for a variety of reasons. And so, just because you talk to one native doesn't mean they're a representation for every other native. It's just that's one person's opinion, or one person's life. And so, don't generalize, I guess, based on who you meet. That is how all other natives are.
Thanks for letting us interview you. It's for National Native American Heritage Month. And so having you as one of our partners for the Explore program, Dave actually thought that it was such a cool idea to talk with you and highlight the work that you do and kind of the unique nature of your business in Navajo Nation. So do you want to start with just telling us who you are, a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, my name is Germaine Simonson. I am from a rural community, probably central on the Navajo Nation. It's called Hard Rock, Arizona. I've was born and raised in the area, and I've lived there pretty much all my life, except for the few years that I went away to go to school. But I always knew that I was going to be home, and that's where my life would be, my home and everything else. So made those preparations during the time that I was going to school. And when I was done with school, I already knew where I was going. So, packed up and went home. I've been, much of my career has been in mental behavioral health, creating prevention program, really creating programs for community within the community. And so I've done that for many years. I work with Indian Health Services. I've done, created programs through there as well, and also provided service to the people. And then since 2014, I started a non-emergency medical transport business on Navajo. And that took me into 2018, and I decided to take on the Rocky Ridge Gas and Market. At the time, it was Rocky Ridge General Store. So the woman was, at the end of her lease with the Navajo Nation, and she wanted out. And I, after several years of thinking about it, and after several years of our Navajo Nation government, promoting it and telling folks that it was available for anyone who wants to, take on owning and operating a store. I decided that I would give it a try, and I've never owned a retail business before, gas and market, and so it was. So I learned as I got in there. First day taking over, and probably for the next month straight, I learned how to operate a store, and so it's been that way since, and still learning and still operating, although it's very difficult. But we've come along this far, and there's some really good, interesting things happening now with the store, and I'm going to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's exciting. And actually, like, a perfect segue to my next question, which was, tell me more about the store. I know that it's more than a store. And like, what has that experience been like building that up?
So we are in a rural community. We are either way 50 miles away from our nearest Navajo Nation town that provides, other social programs and services. We are pretty far from hospitals and and other things, bigger grocery stores. So we're located right within the community. And so our customer base is not large. It's, pretty much whoever lives in the community. But we also do well with visitors to the community. So whether it's family members coming home from, maybe they moved away to the city, but they still have extended family living in the community. So it might be, those folks coming home to visit other family members. And so they come by the store and make purchases, or whether it's holiday weekends, or whether there's some kind of special event happening in the community, like a ceremony, that brings people back. And so that's when we get to see, good volume of customers. And so um, there are times that, and through the pandemic, we served sort of as a food pantry. We had several deliveries of food from the food bank, and we store them there and distribute there. We also got the first, we probably, we were able to receive a big batch of hand sanitizers. And so we were able to distribute that from the store back before. And because of our rural location, when the pandemic hit, our small store and our distributors were not able to get us Clorox and wipes and all the other things that were necessary, or we were asked to use to keep safe, right? So we could not get any of those things, let alone paper products, like toilet tissue and paper towels and wipes. Um, so as a small store, we were not able to get those. And of course, bigger box stores had their hands on those and probably have the monopoly on those products anyway. So we couldn't get anything. And so the hand sanitizers, when you know, probably distilleries pivoted and were making sanitizers, we were able to get a batch, and we were able to use that and distribute that for folks. So we served as a sort of a food pantry, as well as providing some essential PPE during the pandemic. And I'm proud to say that we never closed, except we were closed according to the nation, like whatever rules they had for being open. We stayed with those things, but our store never closed because a worker got sick. We remained open throughout the whole time, and we also did a curbside service. So we're really happy that our staff and our workers never got sick during that time. They were able to stay very safe, and we didn't have to shut the store down because somebody got sick, and at the time, of course, we didn't know really how it spread. So that was the time that we were having to wipe everything down, right? So it was good for us in that way. And and then and so we're surviving the pandemic still. We're still, and on the nation there's still or people are still really using their mask. And the other piece is that during we, because of our rural locations, sometimes we get people that need to stay in the store to stay safe. So maybe they're coming from their home where there's a lot of drinking, and people are out of hand, and they come to the store, and sometimes they just sit there until other help arrives, or maybe police responds to the situation. So we've been able to serve the community in a variety of ways. And before the pandemic, we had some workshops and programs, small programs going. And of course, those need, the financial help. We need, to be able to, it would be nice to compensate, somebody who comes in to do yoga, and so it just is, very economically advantageous community that we are in. There is a high poverty rate as well as unemployment rate. And much of our customers, are on some kind of public assistance. So it's not like people have, a lot of extra money. So we're trying to provide some kind of workshops, some various health workshop activities, as well as, our goal was to also provide some small workshops, so people can get interested in entrepreneurship, and perhaps, go further with whatever small businesses or they have, or start a small business of some sort. So we were getting to do a variety of those kind of things. Biking, we brought in a repair clinic, um, to see if to provide that, in the community. So that was really fun, and we got a lot of folks coming out, and we brought in a small organization that does free bike repairs, and just set up a date. And then there was a group that came through and wanted to donate some really nice bikes for kids, which we were able to give out. So we were able to do some of those things before the pandemic, but of course everything shut down. But we would like to see more of those things coming back to our community, because otherwise we have to travel 50 to 60 miles to do those things in other bigger towns.
You do a lot. I remember you sharing kind of a lot of your ideas and everything. And actually, so Valley Leadership, I think I've talked to you about, we operate using our principles of doing. And one of the ones that I always think about when I think of you is the driven to do principle. So, we can talk a lot and we can meet a lot, but the actual doing is really essential to moving things forward. Can you share what it is that drives you to keep moving forward to get things done for your community?
I'm, I come from a community that has historically survived many federal policies that were meant to, be detrimental in some way to us. So they, did created federal government created some policies, obviously, to assimilate us, and in doing so created more harm than good. And then we also, the more recent federal policy removed a lot of the people from the homelands, Navajo people, as well as we lost 2/3 of our land base, and that was awarded to the neighboring Hopi tribe. Um, so those were, those were very traumatic experiences that we've gone through as a community. So, I think about that, and I think about our resiliency. I think about our desire and our ability to continue to go on, even though we've been suppressed in so many ways. We've been kicked around. We've been, beaten up in so many ways, but we continue to keep going. Um, there's much, I feel like I'm very, much intact in terms of our traditional and cultural lifeways. And those are the things that I think really fuel the resiliency, and that we remain to be here in the community, even though everything about it would make you want to wander off and seek, opportunities elsewhere. But I also think there are opportunities within our communities. But first and foremost, I want our people to be well. We need to, take care of ourselves and be healthy, become healthy people, that allow us to, so then we can readily, then we're prepared and we're ready to seek these opportunities. And one sure way definitely is through health and wellness, through what we eat, and how we take care of ourselves. And even though I own a small store right now that primarily serves chips, soda, and all the salts and sugars, um, because that's what the customers buy. I would like someday to move away from that. I'd like to be a store that also equally serves just as much, good foods, healthy, nutrient dense foods, and, power foods, and hopefully traditional, more traditional foods. So that, and that we're using and consuming those, a little bit more than the other, salts and sugars. And so I feel like in some small way we are on our way to those things. They're just, small steps, small movements, and I feel like it can happen. We just need to be able to provide more education and more programming that encourages and teaches folks about these things.
Yes, I definitely noticed in your store there is a variety of options, but I can imagine, how that actually gets purchased is probably a different story. But I mean, perishable items in a store like that, not knowing if they're going to be purchased, like that's a difficult thing to take on. And I think that that's huge that you're part of the solution of pushing that forward. Okay, next question. As part of the National Native American Heritage Month, what is something that you would like others to know about your culture and community that maybe they don't know already?
Well, that's a really big question.
It is a big question.
Yeah, there was just so many, I think, ways to answer that. Uh, well, like I said, our community is rural, and we would like to make, I see our community, even though it's rural, I see a small economic hub that can be developed there. I, would want, I was telling my husband yesterday that I want the store to be able to be someplace that people want to come to, even as far as Phoenix, like I want to go to Rocky Ridge, market, because, what is that? Because what will they get there that they can't get anywhere else, on the anywhere else? And so I want to be able to bring, folks into the community like that. But also, I think people are very proud of where they're coming from. They're still really connected to the land. Of course, there are some people who don't, they feel a connection, but they don't, they've not really, figured out how or why. And so, getting reconnected is really important. And then, of course, there are folks that are very connected to the land. So within the culture, there is definitely diversity. So there are those who are very connected and know the stories and the songs, and, participate in ceremonies and do all those really good things. And then there are those who have been so disconnected, whether they've been moved away or whether they've grown up somewhere else, that they're just, finally, reconnecting in some way. And of course, there are natives who just, you know, maybe don't want to have anything to do with being native. They're clearly native, but they just say, well, that, I grew up in the city and I like it here. It's comfortable and I like my way of life, and that's okay. So I think I would want people to know that there even is a culture within the culture. There's diversity within our culture, and for a variety of reasons. And so, just because you talk to one native doesn't mean they're a representation for every other native. It's just that's one person's opinion, or one person's life. And so, don't generalize, I guess, based on who you meet. That is how all other natives are, and of course there are hundreds of other tribes, and of course the ability of whatever level that each tribe is still intact to their culture and life ways all varies. I was just up in Canada, where in a small community where there was only one fluent speaker left, an elder. And so there are all so many different situations. And then, there are definitely natives who are very rich, who never have to, they do so well with their casino revenue and whatever revenue they receive, that they never don't absolutely have to work a day in their life, you know, and that they have enough uh, per capita, what's called per capita income. And the other thing is that, you know, that people need to know that not every tribal member gets per capita. You know, it just depends on, you know, what business your tribe is involved in, and where they get this revenue from. Navajo Nation owns casinos. We own maybe three of them, but there's definitely no way that it will distribute a per capita to us. We don't make enough money, and there's just too many of us. That we're over in the hundreds of thousands. So there's just no way that we will get a nice check from our nation. You know, whereas some tribes get hundreds of thousands of dollars in per capita. So it's, we all vary, very different in a lot of different ways.
And I feel like you kind of started going down this road of the next question. So I'm going to just ask you to like elaborate a little bit. When you imagine an ideal scenario of how your business serves your community 5 years, 10 years down the road in the future, what does that look like?
I envision more of a co-op store, where we have definitely, you know, we will carry whatever a small store item, you know, carries. But we also carry some, you know, traditional, you know, food items or ingredients. And then we also have, you know, a small incubator, a small, you know, kind of business hub, you know, just everything in small portions. And so, and maybe a space for workshops, continuous workshops, and people, you know, coming together yearly there to enjoy, you know, whatever the community has to offer, which I feel like our community has a lot to offer. There's still a lot of families that live out there that, you know, carry on with traditional lifeways. And we could definitely, you know, promote those things. And so I see our community as a really, you know, really neat community to come into, and then, you know, also talk about our history, be able to talk about our history, because I think that is a good that is information, and that is the kind of education that our young folks need. And you know, what happened with our community as a result of the relocation, and how that impacted the people, and those should be taught in the schools. And so, you know, maybe we have the resource, maybe we have those things available. Um, so I see, just, we could do so many things within, in my store, not my store, but the community store doesn't, it doesn't just have to be a store just for retail purpose. And that was never my intention. There should also, it should really be a community hub, where there are other things that you can learn. There can be a place of learning, of course, a place of gathering, and then of course a place where you can get your daily or your needs, you know, met, whether it be fuel, propane, or, you know, food items.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like you've got the vision, and, you know, hopefully you can start moving, feel like you can move in that direction as COVID becomes less of a challenge and less of a scary looming thing. It feels like you've got the right idea, and that's exciting. Okay, last question, and this one's really just thrown in there for fun. Have you ever been called to rescue a Subaru in the desert before? You remember when we got stuck when we were going to visit you and we're like, come save us. We don't know where we're at.
Oh my gosh. Um, Aside from that one call, not really. um, yeah, that was pretty interesting. Oh, there was a young woman that came out not too long ago. She didn't have a Subaru, it's just a regular small car. But anyway, she got stuck too. And luckily, there is some young guys on the road that helped her out. So she also called and said, "Hey, I'm stuck." And so I thought we had to go rescue her, but she was able to get the help on her own. So yeah, that's the beauty of our small community is, you know, you might not have access to AAA or whatever, but somebody will come around and, you know, rescue you and may not, not, you know, not concerned about billing you, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
so that's just how, you know, folks take care of each other. And you know, that's how we are. And I hope we continue to be that way. Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful. We definitely had an amazing experience, and I look forward to bringing another group of leaders, hopefully to make it out to the market this time around. That was such a crazy hiccup we had last time, but
Oh, yes,
we're
yes.
determined to figure it out this time.
Well, that would be lovely. I would appreciate that. That would be good.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add in before we wrap it up?
Just that I've learned within the last month that the Navajo Nation, after all of my crying and kicking and screaming around, that the nation has actually allocated 1.4 million to replace the store. That is a good start because you know how dilapidated our store is.
That's
And
huge.
but I think that's definitely a beginning. And so, you know, if people know of resources or ways I can start to look at leveraging more funds, because my goal is definitely we need a new building. It can't be a renovation. Um, I'm trying to relocate it up near the school, so we're right off the highway. And we also have access to the sewage or the sewer lagoon there. That there's a possibility we put in a laundromat and a post office, which are real basic needs. So that is something that is, you know, that's something I'm busy with already now.
Yeah.
And I, you know, have less than a year to do it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so if there is a possibility, however, to fit anything else in, whether you know, definitely 1.4 is a good start, but we could certainly use more because we need new fuel tanks, underground storage tanks for fuel. And so those kind of things. So if anybody, you know, is aware of any resources or grant opportunities or ways we can leverage more funding for the store location. And also we'd like to, you know, include a small incubator, a small, you know, learning center of sorts. We'd like to put all that into one and really make it a wonderful space.
Yeah.
So
A huge
yeah,
community resource. That's incredible.
right, right.
And then is there anywhere you would direct people to?
The RockyRidgeMarket.com, our website. There's a place there that you can email me, and
Okay.
that'll come straight to my email.
Okay.
And then there's a store phone number that they can always leave a message at, and the girls are very good at getting those to me.
Awesome. All right. All right.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for my location. I got caught up with another call earlier, so
No, you're
by
good.
the time I moved on to my next activity, I ended up at the laundromat, and so anyway, I had to just.
You're
So,
good.
sorry
It
about
worked
that.
out. It worked out. Okay. Well, thank you so much for this interview.